Hi everybody, welcome back once again to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel, and today we've got another first, yes, where other channels bring you Brownings week in, week out. We like to mix it up, we like to find different guns, give you different information, and today's gun is a gun that everybody who's watching this channel will have heard of. Certainly a lot of you will have owned, started off with this particular gun. But wait, pause the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button before we crack on. So I'll keep you in suspense no longer. I mentioned at the start of the video that this is a shotgun that everybody will have heard of, many of you will have owned, and you will certainly have fond memories of. Today we are going to look at the fabulous Lanber. So for me, when anybody mentions Spanish over and under shotgun, the name that springs to mind immediately, and probably always will, is Lanber. When I started back in the trade in 1996, in terms of what was affordable and reliable in new shotguns that were being imported from the continent, these guys were right at the top of the tree. Let's not forget, at that time we had dozens and dozens of imports coming into the UK from the continent. We had the likes of Rosini, Investarm, Lerona, Zabala, the Browning medleys, which was probably the biggest con ever. And Lanber, time and time again, they won dozens and dozens of shooting awards. They are just absolutely brilliant, and I want to talk to you about them today. The Lanber story, in terms of the UK, starts back in 1977. GMK, formerly known as Gunmark, huge company these days, responsible for bringing in Beretta. In fact, they're part Beretta owned, Tikka, or Benelli, all that kind of stuff. They started importing them in 1977, which was 7 years after the company was founded. And what they did, we spoke about this in the AWA number 2 video, the Spanish in the Basque, and this is the Zaldibar region, which is where this gun was made, were absolute masters at producing low-end to middle-end shotguns, and out of kind of almost substandard quality material, because the steel wasn't good as some of their Italian counterparts could get hold of, for example. And the key point for Lanber here in the UK was about 1987, when Barry Simpson, who's one of the best English sporting shots the country's ever seen, who was working at GMK, was put to him to develop the gun in terms of what was required for the British shooter's needs. So Barry Simpson had masses and masses of input into the Lanber Sporter that kind of made its mark on the UK market, and a gun that will never ever be forgotten. Now, to give you a rough idea, we talk about AOA as being the current Spanish gun maker because there's not many left. I think they're making about 400 guns a year. When I went to Lanber, I was lucky enough to go there with a number of other gun dealers back in 2008. At that time, Lanber, with a workforce of 35 people, were knocking out 9,000 guns a year. That in itself is unbelievable when you look at the rest of the Spanish gun trade and the small numbers that they were producing. So let's go back to the 1980s. I won't bore you with too much more history. We'll actually look at the gun in a second. Barry Simpson, integral in the fact that the Lanber became probably one of the biggest success stories the UK gun trade has ever seen. So why are they so good? Now, the gun I've chosen today is quite a late gun, and the reason I've chosen it is because it was quite a unique model, and more importantly, it's got everything with it and it's never been touched. And that's what we like here at Eastfield Gunroom. We like originality when we can get it. Go back to the mid-1990s and you could buy a new Lanber for around about 450, 500 quid. Against the rest of the competition, it was the only gun that very, very rarely gave you any trouble whatsoever. Rosinis used to break because they were garbage, Emilio Rosinis, Investarms were dreadful, Zabalas weren't much better, and you got the Browning medleys, which is a gun we will look at on the channel in the future, which wasn't even made by Browning. So Lanber stood at the top of the tree, like I said, in terms of budget guns, and they were, without a doubt, the best starter gun you could buy if you wanted to buy a new shotgun. We're going to concentrate on the Sporter. They were available in 28 and 30 inch. They had a few different cosmetic changes over the years, but essentially the gun I've got here is very, very similar to the gun you would have bought in sort of the early 1990s after the input from Barry Simpson via GMK. So start with the action. We've got this hinge disc design here, which was a much later kind of thing from Lanber. It kind of mimics the Beretta, works the same. The barrels hinge on the discs internally. This one's 30 inch. They were also available in 28 inch. They did game guns in 12 and 20 bore. They even had a hand in producing some semi-autos at one point, but I think that was in collaboration with another Italian manufacturer, which I think was probably Breeder. Let's not forget Lanber of Spain. So for me, these guns, and I've said this before on the channel, were ahead of their time, because if you bought one of these new 90s, 2000s, whatever, they were all high performance steel shot proofed. They were all magnum proofed. And also, this was the first gun I can ever remember in the UK to be offered with a 5-year warranty, which was absolutely mind-blowing at the time, which I think was about 1999, 2000. I remember the GMK rep with his big nose coming into the shop. Hello, Matt. And what he said, they said they're giving away 5-year warranties, and there was this little red hangy thing that went on the trigger guard, and everyone that came into the shop wanted a good quality starter gun. It was always, without doubt, a Lanber. So back to the barrels. We've got 1534 grams. This gun actually weighs £8 2 ounces. Like I said, Magnum proofed, 3-inch chambers. You could literally do anything with one of these. Sporters had a 10mm rib, file cut rib with a tram line, ventilated rib, ventilated barrels, multi-chokes, traditional kind of, everybody used them in the 80s and 90s, and later LPA red foresight bead. And if we go to the action, the majority of them had got like similar to kind of brown engraved, one engraved, a little bit of an oval scroll. Then they moved on in, I think, 1999, 2000 to a very plain action with the hinge disc design. Not dissimilar in appearance to a DT10. It got Lanber on the bottom of the action there, and the rest of it was pretty much plain. And this particular gun was the Gold Deluxe. Woo! So this gun came out in 2005 in limited numbers. And what you've got here, you've got a case color hardened action with golden game birds, a little bit of scroll with a water scene. Looks like something out of a comic, but again, remember these guns were engraved by a rolling machine. And on the underside, we have got a duck. And these guns were just incredible value for money. That's all. That's the only thing I can say. They were so good that GMK throughout the years sold, God knows how many they sold, but I must have sold hundreds, maybe thousands of these guns. And like I said, they very rarely gave any grief. They were easy to work on. You could get the spares for them. And from a personal opinion, I think these are a better starter gun for someone starting up clay pigeon shooting than anything being knocked out new at the minute, or any kind of Turkish gun, because they're just bomb-proof. They are absolutely brilliant. And sadly, and I'll come on to this shortly, they are no longer with us. So pop this gun back together. So we've got case color hardened action with the gold birds. Still feels nice after 20 years. We've got a case color hardened backstrap, little bit of engraving on the top lever. Nothing fancy. We haven't got an adjustable trigger. We haven't got any barrel weight systems like you get with a lot of modern guns, but they just work. You know, like I said at the start of the video, if you've owned one of these guns, you will have nothing but fond memories of it, because you will have took it out every Saturday, every Sunday, and it will have just gone bang. Doesn't feel dreadful. The trigger pulls aren't as agricultural as other guns that were available at the time. So moving on to the wood, again, this was the thing that Barry Simpson had some input with. They went from being very, very low and not very thick in the comb, like a very gamey stock. What we've got here is we've got 14 and 5-inch length of pull with a genuine Lanber recoil pad on the back. Look at that. Lacquered stock, reasonable quality piece of wood. You know, for what these cost, it was absolutely fine. It wasn't over the top. You would occasionally get one that was nicer figured. One thing worth pointing out as well, from my opinion or my memories, these were one of the first manufacturers I can remember to actually manufacture a left-handed stock. So to put things into perspective, many manufacturers back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, when they would offer a left-handed version, they were having them bent, having them cast by in-house gunsmiths or people in the trade. Lanber actually built, manufactured left-handed stocks, which I found, again, mind-blowing back in the late 90s when I started in this trade. Selector and safety catch is manual as you would expect on a sporter. It was automatic on the game gun. The selector itself is not dissimilar to a Beretta. It's a left to right, side to side, whichever you want to call it. We've got double point checkering, which is very nice, nicely cut out for the shooter's hand, probably something to do with Barry Simpson's input. And then what they did with this particular model, they even put Lanber stamped in the bottom of the pistol grip. If you remember the Miracle MK10 video from a few weeks ago, we also saw that on the Miracle then. Moving on to the forearm, we've got a Schnabel design. When I was at the factory, actually went and shot some Lanber trap guns, they had beaver tails. From memory, I've never really seen a Lanber trap gun been imported into the UK. So Schnabel design, quite this funky checkering with this line in the middle, but kind of retains the fact that it's double point, it's inoffensive, it's not too big and bulky. This gun weighs £8 2 ounces. We haven't actually done the balance test, so let's do that now. As you would kind of expect, is a little bit forward of the hinge pin, but you've got to remember that this was not an expensive gun in its day, and to get a 5-year warranty at that price point, absolutely incredible. So like I said at the start of the video, one of the reasons I picked this particular example is because it's all original, it's all complete, and there's quite a lot of cool stuff going on in the case. Again, the case at this time, late 1990s, early 2000s, maybe this is 2005 shotgun, you didn't get a case. If you bought a Beretta, it came in a cardboard box, most of them. If you bought a Browning, it came in a cardboard box. So, and certainly the cheaper guns, I can remember Investarms, Rosinis, Laronas, all came in cardboard boxes. When you went into a gun shop to look at one of these guns, it just kept getting better and better. They'd got the warranty, they'd got the reputation, they'd got the backup, and then you get a box. Right, so standard sliding locks. Look at that, Lanber on the top. I mean, whoever thought up of the logo must have took them hours. Lanber, which I think is the name of the company, which is Lanber Commercial. Inside, bog standard egg box foam. But look at all this stuff. So, first of all, you got a nice little booklet telling you about over and unders, or superpuestas, which is Spanish. That was the previous model to this. So if you look on that photo there, we'll show you on the close-ups, you've got no hinge discs and it's a slightly different design, although in essence, it is the same gun. Tells you all about the multi-choke system. Tells you how to take the forend off. You know, there's a lot going on. It's an exploded diagram, which is obviously nice from the point of view should you need to get any replacement parts. We've got a proof certificate because in Spain they have their own proof house in Eibar, which is the area where all shotgun manufacturers are. We've got 18.5, which is the boring of the barrels. We've got 30-inch. It's even got the weight of the barrels, the fact that it's got a multi-choke. You know, 26th of October 2005, look at that, and it's been signed by the El Director as well, so that's nice. Get this, genuine, original Lanber carrier bags. And again, from a consumer's point of view, when you open the box and it was all nicely presented, it was just that extra bit that other manufacturers just didn't do at the time. So we've got one for the barrels and one for the stock. And then I talked about this little red velvet wallet, which blew my mind when I first saw it in 1999, 2000, wherever it was. And that used to hang off the trigger guard and you used to open it up and it used to basically say, we will warranty this gun for 5 years from the date of sale. And it's even got when it was sold, May 2007. Obviously took a while to get into the country. And someone's obviously sent the other part off. So the warranty has expired about 12 years ago. But it was just, like I said, from a consumer's point of view, there was no reason not to buy one. You'd come into a gun shop, you wanted to start clay shooting, you got 500 or 600 quid. This gun ticked so many boxes. Even Lanber in the case, and then we go to this little multi-choke pouch, which looks like it holds a harmonica. And you've got choke key, steel choke key, good quality one, not like some of the naff you get these days with some of the other shotguns. Good quality steel multi-chokes. We've already mentioned it was steel shot proof, fleur-de-lis, high performance, so they'd already got, you know, years on other manufacturers at this point. And it was just brilliant. And it's a gun that I will always hold strong regard for. So I can see you sat there, if you've not heard of a Lanber, where have you been, going, well, where are they now? Sadly, Lanber went into administration about sort of 2010, 2011. Now, I believe the reason for this is that because, you know, ultimately when you're manufacturers, your raw material costs don't reduce, your labor costs don't reduce. But what happened is they kept going up and up and up. In terms of Lanber, they got quite expensive to about the kind of £900 mark. Whereas other shotguns, the bigger brands, like your Brownings, like your Berettas, were actually coming down slightly. And what it did is the gap became too small for people to go out and buy a new Lanber. And I think it was a great shame that we did eventually lose them, particularly from the point of view of the Spanish gun trade, because they were a stronghold over there in the Eibar region. If you are starting up clay shooting, or you want a good, reliable gun to just go and shoot a little bit, occasional shooter, shoot with friends, you will not go wrong with a Lanber. They are absolutely brilliant. You know, I hope this video has given you a bit of information. They are, I'm going to say it, the best starter gun money can buy, regardless of what Turkey's knocking out now, regardless of some of the in vogue options that are available to the end user. If you go and buy a Lanber, you will not be disappointed. Just bear in mind the fact that they've been out of production a few years now and parts availability may not be what it used to be. Little things like ejector slides, etc., though, can be made by a competent gunsmith. Real shame. Like I said, for probably 20, 30 years, they stood right at the top. They won, you know, GMK when they were bringing them in, Gunmark back then, won dozens and dozens of awards year in, year out. Best starter gun, best value shotgun. And that gun absolutely deserves all the accolades it's got. One thing I would say is I think prior to about 1982, they did make some alloy action stuff in conjunction with another manufacturer called Ibar guns. For a reason, avoid those at all costs. Okay, if you're going to buy a Lanber, get ones from sort of 1995 onwards, and that way you're buying into this kind of action design, and literally it will never let you down. You can put them in the cabinet as a spare gun, whatever, a guest gun, just go and get one. They can be picked up for peanuts. Like I said, a great shame for the industry. A lot of people my age that have known Lambers for years, that we lost them about 13 years ago now. So that has been the undisputed kingpin of Spanish shotguns, and I'm going to put my cards on the table. The best value starter or even second shotgun that this country has ever seen and will probably see. Lanber Sporting, you can't help but be impressed by these. If you've got any questions about this particular gun, please do contact me directly. Feel free to send me an email. Don't forget to check out the website. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like and subscribe button. We do appreciate it. And from me and this absolute gem from Spain, I'll see you soon.